I should probably preface this with a simple characteristic about myself, seeing as how it will be the reason I make the entire entry in the first place. I see spirits. Not only spirits, but fairies, angels, guides, and pretty much anything you can think of. With that being said, yes, I can see demons. Beat you to the punch there, didn't I? That's the one thing everyone asks as soon as I drop the "I can see ghosts" bomb. Most of the time, I just tell people that demons aren't real, that I can't see them. I only say this because much of the normal populace would not take to the idea of demons walking around lightly. How would you feel if I told you that on an average day, I see at least 5 lower level demons trailing behind the humans they latched onto? You'd feel like shit, let's be real. Because unless you're someone like me, you'd never know if something was following you, tormenting you, making your life a living hell. Your life would be a constant panic attack, wondering if you'll wake up with claw marks or even worse, a pentagram etched into your living room table. Yes, I've seen that. Higher level demons are a force to be reckoned with, that's for sure. But enough about the gift I have, let's get down to the nitty gritty. The point of this entry is to keep people cautious, to make sure people don't go around messing with things that could fuck their lives up, or send them straight to hell. The way I see it, if I tell you all some situations I've been in, maybe that'll make you more careful the next time you pick up a Ouija board. For the first memory I'll tell you all, we'll start off with something tame, an earthbound spirit to be exact. Now these spirits are usually harmless aside from the emotional drain from time to time. I've experienced a lot of these guys, and most of the time the only energy they let off is one of the either confusion or content. Many choose this or are fresh after death, as I like to call it. They don't exactly know what they're doing and are trying to find their way around the spirit realm, which is a lot more tricky to navigate than you think. These spirits will present themselves as human or some contorted version of a human. Seeing as how they were human in our realm, it would only make sense for them to look like it in the afterlife. There are, however, some cases where I've come across earthbound spirits that are only a dark silhouette like that of a shadow. Those guys might be a little harrowing to see at first, but they're just roaming around trying to get their bearings, like I said. Not harmful except for the occasional emotion sapping. That just means they're noticing the things you're feeling and are interested in it, so they're tapping into your emotions to try to feel them as well. A simple guard will stop this if you find yourself feeling drained. Now that that's out of the way, we're on to fairies. Now these little balls of light are quite something. I've got to say, a lot of people describe them as little people with wings. Some people like to say they look terrifying and cause mischief. I, on the other hand, see these beings as small orbs or sparks of light. They tend to bounce around quickly and dart all over property. The reason for this is because fairies are protectors of the land, like small bodyguards watching over trees, flowers, and things like that. If you live in a condo, townhome, or apartment, never fear, you'll still have a small bodyguard that will bounce from area to area around your complex you live in, making sure everything is safe and protected. The only catch is that you'll need to take care of the land you're on. That is, you shouldn't go around chopping down every tree you have or ripping up the earth at your feet. I've known a few friends who had completely devastated their properties, building dirt bike roads, outdoor pools, setting an old tree on fire, and burned the damn thing down to get it out of the way for their $1 million view. They got their $1 million view, but had to sacrifice a car in order to do so. The reason I say this is because a week after they had done so, a particular nasty storm had uprooted a large oak, and they had chosen to keep for aesthetic purposes, landed smack dab on the brand new Corvette. Ain't that a shame? Next on the list is angels. First time I saw an angel, I was floored. They're monstrous in size, towering over us and reaching the height of buildings a few stories high. They're donned in full armor, shimmering armor that's unique only to them. They are, as you could probably assume, filled with good energy and light. When I say filled with light, I mean they emanate it. Coming close to an angel can cause brief periods of dizziness as well as a rush of euphoria from the pure energy they radiate. Other than those things, they're completely a mystery. I know they protect people and are steadfast against malevolent beings, but other than that, I'm in the dark. I just know that I can't help to smile every time I see one, knowing they're here to help us and keep us safe as much as they can. On to our next subject, spirit guides. These are the beings that remain with you throughout your entire life, trying to steer you towards your life's purpose. Whatever that may be, your life's purpose might be to become a doctor for that one patient that will end world hunger. Or it could be you become a heroin addict so that you have to learn a valuable lesson in life and be ready for your next life with more enlightenment from the hardship you've endured. Whatever it may be, they're by your side through thick and thin. They can look odd as well. I've seen gods that project themselves as tall, tree-like humanoid figures. I've seen some without faces but wearing brilliant Renaissance gowns. My own spirit guide resembles a human woman. So some of them can look incredibly normal. It's up to the chance with them. Okay, here we are with the more sinister side of things. The reason I'm writing this all in the first place. The reason why I had the thought to type this damn thing and give all my information away to Reddit. Demons. I like to separate them into two categories, lower level and higher level. Let's break down both of them just to make sure that everyone can understand the signs and be aware of the paranormal. Lower level demons are chasing after fear. They relish it, feed off of it, will do anything they can to obtain it. They like to prey on small children, especially because they're prone to being frightened and uncontrollable. They will deliberately show themselves to people trying anything to seep into your fear and become stronger. They can manipulate themselves into just about anything, although most of the time they don't even need to do so. These demons give off an energy of dread, even if they're just present themselves as a silhouetted shadow or a man in a hat. I've experienced one of these demons myself, but only once, and only when I was young. I'd been walking through the hallway of my childhood home towards my mother's room. I couldn't tell you why I was heading there in the first place, because every reason or thought I had going through my head at the time was cut abruptly short as I looked to my right into one of the guest bedrooms. There it stood, a dark figure without detail. I froze in fear, not knowing what to do. At the time I had only been 5 or 6, so naturally I was crying. There I remained, though paralyzed in the demon's gaze. I wouldn't be able to do it justice, but it gave off a low, deep noise that made me want to retreat back into my own skin, a noise that fed fear while at the same time making me fearful. It stood there for what seemed to be an hour, and I stood with it, refusing to move in hopes that it would just disappear. But, too afraid to move myself, my only saving grace was my mother, who stepped out of her room at the end of the hallway, saw me, and quickly walked over. She asked what was wrong, only to look over into the room that I was staring into. All I had heard her say under her breath was, "Shit," as she grabbed my arm and led me into her room, closing the door once I was inside. A few minutes later, she walked back in and held me for a while, calming me down, and told me what I saw would never be seen again in her household. Now that I have lower level demons out of the way, I need to move on to higher level ones. These ones I fear of talking about. These demons are not, I repeat, are not to be trifled with. They have and will ruin your goddamn life. I try not to even think about them in fear that I might lure one to me. I will start off by telling you signs of their presence and what to look for if you have an inkling that one is nearby or latched onto you. One of the first signs is lack of sleep you'll experience. If you happen to get any sleep at all, it will be riddled with night terrors. Fears that awaken inside of you that you never even knew you were afraid of. To begin with, a higher level demon will at times present itself to you in said nightmares, albeit it might not be what you expect. In most instances, they are a passerby that you tend to look over but not notice. This is how they observe you. Wrapped in your own terror, they watch, waiting to see if you'll fight, cry, laugh, shake, or succumb to the nightmare. Any sort of reaction is what it's looking for, even if it's something outrageous or hopeful. Another distinct sign on a high-level demon is its stench. My God, that fucking stench. They reek of year-old corpse, rotten meat, bile, shit. And it will follow you. And others will smell it on you. Part of the reason for that is to ward off people, keeping them away from you. The other half of this reasoning is to drive you to brief and brink insanity. It will never wash off, never die down, and you will never become used to the smell. It is meant to eat away at your senses and make you more fragile. Once this type of demon is getting an understanding for your way you work, it will start to manifest itself to you. At first, this may seem trivial. The occasional figure out of your peripheral, the random stranger staring at you in a crowd of people. If you notice signs of this, you'll need to steel your mind and guard yourself in any way you can, whether this be calling for an angel, fairies, or a priest. It's up to you. You must be proactive about this, though. Once this stage of latching takes place, you will not have much time to prepare for the worst to come. When I say the worst to come, I mean possession. Possession is in every way possible. The end result of a higher level demon is searching for. Possessions is, by all definition of demons, the capturing and taking of one's soul to the depths of hell. Now, you may ask, how would you know this? How do you know what the end game of demons is? That's a great question, and one I'm reluctant to answer simply because I despise to think of the occasion in the first place, but I don't want people getting hurt. So I'll go into it just this once. I had reference to my mother earlier in the century. She, as you probably could have assumed, had my gift. As a matter of fact, she helped people with her gift. She tried to, at least. She told me on this one particularly lovely day in December, one where the snow was falling lightly into the sidewalks outside and leaving soft white carpets on the walkway. I was 14 at the time and about to turn 15. She had taken me out to coffee that day, and while we sat in chairs sipping our drinks, she told me her secret in regards to the paranormal, and I was shocked, not knowing anyone else could see these things I did. I would like it if you came with me tonight to a friend's house. She is someone who needs my help, and I think it would be best for you to see this type of thing for yourself. At that moment, I was thrilled. I jumped at the thought of seeing what my mother was going to do and how I could learn from her. She smiled at my enthusiasm, but there was sadness. In her eyes, I know that the sadness was in regards to my innocence. She wanted to preserve what hope I had left in life. But she knew she had to show me something I would inevitably come across during my lifetime. That night descended upon us quickly, and my mother drove me to the house that I didn't recognize. It seemed abandoned, the windows boarded with wood. I got out of the car and followed my mother, who I now noticed to be holding an herb in one hand and a Bible in the other. My eyes widened, knowing full well what a Bible entailed in regards to the paranormal. Upon entering the described house, I was hit with a wall of hot, smoldering air that made me gag in response. My mother touched my shoulder then, telling me to hold my nose if the stench became too much for me to handle. I walked forward with her and turned right in the living room, where I then saw a woman sitting patiently in a chair. Behind her stood a monstrosity, a being with cracked horns, hooves, fur, and razor-sharp teeth. It must have been 8 or 9 feet tall, seeing as how it towered over the woman sitting in the chair. My mother stepped forward, Bible and herb in hand. "I see you've brought your sage, witch." The woman spoke in a deafeningly low pitch. As she spoke, the demon mirrored the words. It spoke through her perfectly. "I have," my mother answered, bringing a lighter out of her jacket pocket and setting the sage ablaze. The demon breathed out a steam behind the woman, who I could see now becoming burned by the heat of the My mother wafted the smoke of sage towards the beast. "I see you have brought your daughter," the demon said menacingly. It took a step around the woman, its eyes tearing their way into my soul. I felt my breathing come out in a ragged spasm as my mother looked over at me, her Bible now out and open. "You may leave now. Leave the rest to me." I didn't want to leave her. I shouldn't have fucking left her, but I knew she had a purpose to fulfill in her life. I had stolen a glance to her spirit guide then. He was a man in a trench coat without a face. He nodded in my direction, and in a moment I knew I would not see my mother again. I did as she told me and left the house. I called my father immediately, and he showed up 10 minutes later, asking me why I had been out so far and where my mother was. I said nothing, but a hint of concern washed over his face. "She's in there, isn't she?" he asked, his face turning cold as ice to match the weather outside. I nodded as a tear rolled down my cheek. He grabbed me for a hug and led me to his car. We drove home that night, not saying another word until we got home. We walked inside, and all he said was, "Your mother is the bravest woman I know. She'll come back to us." She never did. Now you all know why I don't talk about this in the first place, why I didn't want to bring this to light. What I saw that day was horrifying. What I saw was something that people deal with every single day across the globe. What I saw was something that would take my mother from me in hopes of stomping out the light she had within her. So take my past into consideration the next time you consider summoning some level of demon. Consider what happened to my mother and the woman she was trying to protect the next time you smell a particularly foul stench. Please, just think about the signs I've told you in regards to the malevolent energy. Even more so, make sure you keep an eye or sense out for the small, good energies. Your spirit guide, an angel, some ferocious, loyal protectors. I hope what I've shared with you today will help someone. That was the point of all this, to help people and keep them safe. That's what my mother would have wanted. So please be kind to your land and be thankful that angels are more common than you think. You never know when you'll come across someone or something much more sinister latched onto them.